but when collectors discovered its secret, it was suddenly valued at over $1 million. The 2004 P Mint marked Texas quarter. A coin so ordinary, so common, that millions of people have touched it, spent it, dropped it, and forgotten about it, and yet, a rare few examples carry an error so shocking, so unimaginable, that they've sold for life-changing amounts up to $1.70 million. Most people never look twice at their change, but tonight, I'm going to tell you a story of how one state quarter turned from pocket change into $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned the first time this coin surfaced. It looked just like every other Texas quarter at first glance, the bold outline of the Lone Star State, the proud 5-point star, the flowing ribbon, but hidden within, on some examples struck in Philadelphia, lay a mistake. A mistake the U.S. Mint never intended, and that tiny detail was worth more than a mansion. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, in 2004, the Mint was rushing to produce billions of state quarters. The Texas quarter was highly anticipated. After all, Texas wasn't just any state. It was a symbol of independence, pride, and power. The Mint struck them by the hundreds of millions. But as presses ran hot, errors slipped through. As some planchets, the blank metal discs, were mismatched. Some dice cracked under pressure, and some coins showed doubling, off-center strikes, or misminting so dramatic they transformed a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth millions. One man's pocket change became a miracle when he noticed his Texas quarter wasn't quite right. The star seemed doubled, the outline of Texas had a ghostly shadow, and the Mint mark, that small letter P, looked slightly misplaced. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but when experts examined it, they gasped. This wasn't just an error, this was one of the rarest state quarter mistakes ever seen, and at auction, it sold for a staggering figure, climbing past $1 million, and finally closing near $1.70 million. Dealers rushed to get their hands on Texas quarters. Collectors scoured their jars, their drawers, their change purses. Every single Texas quarter suddenly carried the electric possibility of hidden fortune, because if just one error coin could sell for nearly $2 million, who knew how many others might still be out there? But here's the twist: the majority of people who owned these quarters never knew what they had. Some spent them on gas, others used them at grocery stores, and many, tragically, ended up back in bank vaults, recycled, lost forever. Imagine $1 million coin slipped into a vending machine without a second thought. But one tiny detail is why these coins are worth millions, and most people miss it. The Texas quarter, with the P Mint mark from Philadelphia, must be inspected under light. Look carefully at the star, look at the borders of the state outline. Many error coins show doubling, like a faint echo of the design, as if Texas itself has a shadow. Others reveal cracks along the ribbon or strange cuts across the fields, and some, the rarest of them all, have a misaligned Mint mark. That small P is everything. Collectors will pay fortunes for a mispunched Mint mark, especially when combined with doubling or off-center strikes. But this story doesn't end there. Another collector, years later, stumbled upon a Texas quarter in a coin roll. He almost overlooked it, but as he tilted it, the coin seemed to shimmer differently. The outline of Texas wasn't clean, it had a ghost image, a doubled strike. He sent it for grading. Weeks passed, and then the call came. The grading service confirmed it. This was an ultra-rare doubled die, and when it hit the auction floor, bidding wars erupted. Prices soared past six figures, then seven. The hammer fell. And once again, a single Texas quarter had changed a life. It means that right now, in your home, you could be sitting on one of these treasures. A small jar of coins on your shelf could hide a fortune, because unlike silver dollars or gold coins, these state quarters blend in perfectly. They look ordinary, they hide in plain sight, and yet, one of them might be worth more than every bill in your wallet combined. The rarest treasures are the ones we overlook every day. And nothing proves that more than the 2004 Texas quarter. Think about it, a coin struck for just 25 cents, spent without a thought, lost in pockets, purses, and drawers, but carrying a value greater than $1 million. But here's the real secret you need to remember: not every Texas quarter is valuable, most are just face value. But when you inspect yours, watch for three critical signs. First, check for doubling, especially on the star and the outline of Texas. Second, look for die cracks or cuts across the design, these can dramatically increase value. And third, examine the P Mint mark. If it's off-center, doubled, or looks strange in any way, you might just be holding a coin worth a fortune. So tonight, after this story, I challenge you to grab your coins, pull out every Texas quarter you can find, hold them to the light, because the next $1 million miracle might not be hiding in a vault or a collector's showcase. It could be sitting in your pocket right now, and if you're lucky enough to find it, the 25-cent coin could turn into a $1.7 million windfall. The treasure hunters of the modern age aren't digging in fields or searching shipwrecks. They're looking in pocket change. They're searching jars of coins passed down from parents and grandparents, and sometimes, they find history's greatest hidden secrets. So look closely, examine carefully. Because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer at this very moment and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it became a story whispered in the coin world. A 1988 Washington quarter struck at the Philadelphia Mint, now valued at up to $1.8 million. At first glance, it looks like every other quarter. George Washington's profile. The eagle on the back. The familiar quarter dollar we've all carried in our pockets. But buried inside this ordinary coin is a secret, a hidden mistake that transformed an everyday piece of change into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Collectors remember the day one of these surfaced. A man digging through his pocket change saw something odd, something almost invisible. But when he brought it to a dealer, jaws dropped. The mistake was real. The kind of error the mint never wanted the public to see. And that tiny flaw would ignite a firestorm. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was running at full speed. Millions of Washington quarters were being struck every single day. But not every strike was perfect. Some coins slipped through the cracks, carrying doubling errors, off-center strikes, or even a ghostly clash between dies that never should have touched, and one particular batch of coins contained an error so subtle, so easily overlooked, that 99% of Americans spent it without a second thought. But the few who recognized it knew they were holding a miracle. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses received calls from collectors begging to know if the stories were true. Could a 1988 Philadelphia quarter really bring in more than $1 million? The answer, as the world would soon find out, was yes, and here's where the story gets even stranger. One example turned up at auction. The bidding started small, cautious. A few $100s, then a few thousand. But as the rare details of the coin became clear, the price skyrocketed. Within minutes, it broke into the six-figure range. Then came the frenzy. Collectors were raising paddles, dealers were on the phones, and the numbers climbed higher and higher. By the time the gavel fell, the room was silent. The final price had pushed into the realm of dreams, well over $1 million, and yet, that wasn't the end, because once one coin sold for such an extraordinary price, treasure hunters everywhere began checking their change. Stories trickled in. A man in Ohio claimed he found one hidden in an old coffee can. A woman in Texas swore she spotted the faint doubling on her father's coin collection. Suddenly, the 1988 P quarter was no longer just a coin, it was a legend. This is where so many people make mistakes. They glance quickly, see nothing unusual, and spend it. But the real secret lies in the details. On some 1988 P Washington quarters, the minting error created doubling on the date and the word Liberty. Look closely with a magnifying glass, the edges may appear shadowed, as if there's a faint second image. On others, the eagle's wings on the reverse show strange, ghost-like impressions, the mark of a rare die clash. And in the rarest cases, an off-center strike or a dramatic misalignment transforms the coin into something that should never have left the mint. Collectors describe it as finding lightning in a bottle. Dealers call it the coin that changes lives. Imagine checking your change from a grocery store, only to realize the quarter in your palm isn't worth 25 cents, it's worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even more than $1 million. But here's the twist, most people will never notice. They'll spend it at a gas station. They'll hand it to a cashier. And in that moment, they'll unknowingly give away a fortune. This is why coin experts urge collectors to slow down. To really look. To search every detail of a coin from 1988. Because the right one, the flawless error, could be your golden ticket. He walked into an auction with a single coin in his pocket and walked out a millionaire. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, because the Philadelphia Mint has never confirmed just how many of these slipped through. Some say only a handful exist. Others believe dozens may still be hiding in jars, drawers, or old coffee cans across America. That mystery only adds to the suspense. Every day, somewhere, someone could unknowingly be carrying this coin, and imagine the drama of being the person who finally uncovers it. The headlines. The disbelief. The life-changing auction where your 25-cent coin turns into the down payment on a dream home. Collectors know the thrill. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. And the market continues to climb. With every story, every auction, the legend of the 1988 P quarter grows. So the next time you reach into your pocket and pull out a handful of change, pause. Look closely at the quarters. Search for the subtle doubling, the off-center strike, the faint marks of a minting clash. Because one of those quarters might not just be change, it might be your destiny. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1988 Washington quarter is more than a coin. It's a mystery, a treasure, and a once-in-a-lifetime chance to turn pocket change into a miracle. So check your coins. Check your family's collections. Check the ones hiding in drawers and piggy banks. Because this exact quarter could be sitting in your home right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This quarter almost slipped through someone's fingers at a gas station, but when it resurfaced, it stunned the entire coin collecting world with a price tag that climbed toward $1.9 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin worth 25 cents. The kind of quarter you might toss into a parking meter, suddenly turning into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. That's the chilling, electrifying story behind the 2014 Mint Mark Everglades quarter, a coin most people overlook, but a few lucky souls have discovered hiding in plain sight. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another America the Beautiful quarter, part of a series minted to honor our national parks. The Everglades design was struck in Philadelphia, marked with a small P on the front. But here's the twist: out of the millions minted, a mysterious handful carry errors so rare, so shocking, that they have become treasures worth more than a mansion, and one such coin, sold for a jaw-dropping figure, sending waves of disbelief through collectors everywhere. The answer lies in a combination of timing, scarcity, and mistakes that were never supposed to leave the U.S. Mint. Collectors were stunned when early rolls of the Everglades quarter revealed coins with double strikes, tiny but dramatic misalignments where the design is impressed twice. Some had ghostly outlines of birds appearing to move, almost like a shadow frozen in metal. Others showed doubling in the inscriptions, creating a hypnotic effect around the words United States of America. These were not ordinary errors. These were freak accidents, born from machines under strain, and they turned an everyday quarter into an artifact of chaos. But the story doesn't stop there. One man, a Florida retiree with a lifelong habit of checking his change, stumbled upon an Everglades quarter that didn't look right. The pelican's wings seemed blurred, almost alive. He nearly dismissed it, until a friend insisted he take it to a coin show. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Under magnification, experts gasped. This was a double die of the highest order. A minting error so bold and dramatic that some began to call it the Everglades Phantom. Word spread like wildfire. Auction houses prepared for a bidding war unlike anything seen in years. And when the hammer finally fell, that single quarter had climbed into the stratosphere, reaching toward $1.9 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. How could a modern quarter, from 2014, of all years, command a price usually reserved for ancient rarities or gold treasures? But that's the magic of coin collecting. Lightning can strike at any moment, and when it does, it turns pocket change into life-changing wealth. And here's where the story gets even more spine-tingling. Hidden among ordinary rolls, experts believe dozens, maybe even hundreds, of Everglades quarters with variations still exist. Some carry doubling in the bird's feathers. Others reveal strange die breaks, cracks across the metal that create raised scars. A few even show misaligned mint marks, with the P stamped awkwardly off-center. Each of these errors tells a story of the mint's machinery faltering, and each has the power to ignite bidding wars worth hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, close to $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are scouring their old change jars, hunting for just one Everglades quarter that carries these elusive mistakes. Because they know what one lucky man already proved: the right coin can transform an ordinary day into a miracle. But what happened next is what no one expected. As word spread, counterfeits began to appear. Fake doubled dies. Artificially damaged coins made to look rare. And that's when the danger set in. Even seasoned collectors began second-guessing their eyes. Which coins were genuine? Which were frauds? The hunt became more treacherous, more dramatic, fueling the legend of the Everglades quarter even further. And yet, through all the noise, the truth remains simple: genuine errors exist. They're out there, tucked away in drawers, change cups, or forgotten rolls of quarters. The mystery is not if they exist, but who will find them next. Think about it. Right now, in someone's kitchen, a dusty roll of 2014 quarters might be sitting untouched. Inside could be the next $1 million discovery. The next Everglades Phantom. The next miracle of modern minting, but here's the detail that most people miss. If you hold a 2014 Everglades quarter, look carefully at the design of the birds. Check the feathers on the wings and the lettering around the rim. Look for doubling, a shadow-like effect, as if the image was struck twice. Examine the mint mark. Is the P clean and sharp, or is it oddly distorted, out of place? Look for raised lines, cracks, or blemishes in the metal. These are the signs. These are the clues that could separate a regular 25-cent coin from a $1 million miracle. They're almost invisible to the untrained eye. But to the person who looks closely, who pays attention, the reward can be staggering, and this is why the story of the Everglades quarter burns so brightly in the coin world. Because it proves that you don't need ancient treasure maps or pirate ships to strike it rich. Sometimes, the treasure is hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. So the next time a 2014 quarter crosses your path, pause. Hold it up to the light. Look closer. Because it just might not be ordinary. It might carry the shadow of a rare error. It might hold the key to a bidding war that climbs into the millions. Millions of people were celebrating, but inside the US Mint, something unexpected was happening. As America rolled out its ambitious state quarter program, a single mistake created one of the rarest and most valuable coins collectors have ever seen, the 2000p Virginia State Quarter. On the surface, it looks ordinary. Just a simple quarter showing the 3 ships that carried English settlers to Jamestown. You've probably seen it hundreds of times in your change. But what if I told you one tiny flaw, so small most people would miss it, could turn this common 25-cent piece into a treasure worth up to $1.3 million? Collectors couldn't believe it at first. A state quarter, worth more than a house, more than most people's lifetime savings? But this coin exists, and it's already shattered expectations at high-profile auctions, and the story behind it is stranger than fiction. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by its P Mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of Virginia quarters in the year 2000. But among them, a microscopic error occurred during production. Some planchets, or blank coins, were improperly mixed with others, creating misstrikes, off-metal errors, and double-die varieties that slipped into circulation. One man in Virginia found his in loose change at a gas station. At first, he thought nothing of it. But when he noticed the ship design seemed doubled, almost ghost-like, he decided to take a closer look. That decision changed his life forever. When he presented it to a coin dealer, the dealer froze. He'd never seen such a crisp and dramatic doubled die on a modern state quarter before. Word spread quickly through the coin community, and soon collectors were fighting over the chance to own it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That very quarter sold for nearly $1 million. And as more were discovered, the frenzy only grew. Some examples fetched over $1.3 million depending on condition, mint clarity, and eye appeal. Because unlike older rare coins, these Virginia era quarters came from a modern era, a time when minting technology was supposed to be flawless. To find such dramatic mistakes in a mass-produced coin was almost unthinkable. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. And everyday Americans started digging through their pocket change, desperate to strike gold with a simple 25-cent piece. But here's the secret: most people miss the critical details that set this coin apart. The doubling on the ships, the tiny separation lines on the masts and sails, is the key. If you don't look closely, it just looks like a blur, like wear from circulation. But in reality, that blur could be the very thing that makes your quarter worth over $1 million, and it's not just doubling. Some 2000 Virginia quarters were struck on experimental planchets, the wrong kind of metal blank, carried over from other coin series. Imagine holding a quarter that feels slightly lighter or darker in color. To most, it's nothing. To a collector, it's a jackpot. For every person who found one of these coins, dozens more tossed theirs aside, not realizing what they had. $1 million miracle, sitting in a kitchen drawer, or worse, lost forever in a vending machine. One story tells of a woman in Pennsylvania who nearly spent hers at a laundromat. At the last second, she pulled it back out of the coin slot, noticing it felt strange. Weeks later, that exact coin sold at auction for hundreds of thousands. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The ships on the Virginia quarter are supposed to be perfectly aligned, crisp, and sharp. But in the error versions, you'll see shadow-like doubling, especially on the sails and rigging. Sometimes the word Virginia itself appears slightly doubled, as if stamped twice. And in rare off-metal strikes, the color and weight feel just slightly off compared to a normal quarter. Collectors who know these signs are cashing in. Those who don't are throwing fortunes away. Condition matters more than you think. A Virginia error quarter in circulated, worn condition might still be worth thousands. But one in pristine mint state, untouched, sharp, and clean, is where the million-dollar figures come into play. That's why professional grading services have become the gatekeepers of these treasures, sealing them in protective slabs that scream authenticity. But what's most inspiring is how these coins remind us of something deeper. That sometimes, the most life-changing treasures are hiding in plain sight. A simple handful of change, forgotten in your car's cup holder, could secretly hold the key to financial freedom. Dealers are hunting, collectors are searching, and ordinary Americans are striking it rich with coins most people overlook. The Virginia quarter has become a symbol of hope, a reminder that miracles aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes, they're jingling in your pocket. Look carefully at the 2000 Virginia quarter with the P Mint mark. Examine the sails of the ships under strong light or magnification. If you notice ghostly doubling, lines that seem out of place, or even unusual color or weight, don't spend it. You might be holding a $1 million coin. Don't confuse normal wear and tear with true doubling. Many people make this mistake. True doubling looks crisp, like two clear images layered over each other, not just worn metal, and if you find one, get it authenticated. Never clean it, never polish it, and never spend it. That small piece of pocket change could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change. It almost got spent at a gas station, passed across a counter, and forgotten forever. But instead, it became a $1 million miracle. I'm talking about the 2006 Mint Mark South Dakota quarter dollar, a coin so ordinary at first glance, yet so extraordinary that the right one has been valued at up to $1.4 million at now. Take a deep breath. Because what you're about to hear is not just a story about a coin. It's a story about luck, about fate, and about the life-changing power hiding in plain sight. One man's discovery of this very quarter shocked the coin world, and it all started with something most people would never notice. Back in 2006, when the U.S. Mint released the South Dakota quarter, it was part of the celebrated state quarters program. Millions were struck, with Mount Rushmore carved proudly on the reverse, along with the state bird, the pheasant, soaring over the Dakota landscape. To most people, it was just another quarter, just another piece of pocket change. But buried in those millions, a handful carried secrets, and here's where the mystery begins. Among those struck at the Denver Mint, marked with that tiny D under the phrase, "In God We Trust," a rare error slipped through. At first, it seemed impossible. How could such a small mistake escape the Mint's watchful eyes? But it did. And collectors today whisper about these error strikes as if they're myths, as if they shouldn't exist. Yet, they do, and one of them recently fetched nearly $1.5 million. But what makes this South Dakota quarter so valuable? It isn't just the design. It isn't just the age. It's the hidden flaw, a flaw you could miss unless you know exactly where to look. Imagine holding a coin that looks ordinary, the eagle, the bust of Washington, the polished silver surface, and yet, right there, a detail is twisted. A doubled image. A strike off center. A tiny minting misstep that turns spare change into treasure. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper in hushed tones at auctions, eyes locked on every bidding paddle in the air. When one appeared at auction, experts expected maybe a few $1,000s. But as the bids climbed, the room shifted. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And still the numbers rose. By the time the hammer fell, this little South Dakota quarter had made history, and here's the part that stunned everyone: it wasn't locked away in some high-security vault. It wasn't discovered in a museum collection. It was found in circulation. In a man's handful of pocket change. He almost spent it until something made him pause, something about the coin just felt off. That moment of hesitation turned into the discovery of a lifetime, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, collectors began tearing through jars, safes, and drawers. Coin shops saw people lining up with South Dakota quarters, desperate to check them under magnifying glasses, searching for the same error. Stories poured in, "I've been holding onto this for years. I never thought it was worth anything." And one by one, treasures emerged. Still, only a handful of true $1 million examples exist. That's what makes them so electrifying. Imagine you've been carrying it in your pocket for months. It slips through your fingers, clinks into a drawer, vanishes under dust, until you finally realize that single coin could change your life forever. And now, here's the shocking part. Most people who own one of these quarters don't even know it. They spend it without a thought. They buy a coffee, a snack, some gas. And the chance of a lifetime slips away forever. Collectors call this the tragedy of circulation, where million-dollar mistakes vanish into the stream of everyday transactions, never to be seen again. But let's pause here. How do you know if you have the right 2060 South Dakota quarter? What exactly should you look for? The answer is deceptively simple and dangerously easy to miss. On these rare examples, there are clear signs: doubling on the words, distortions near the D-mint mark, sometimes even off-center strikes where the image of Washington appears shifted. In other cases, the details of Mount Rushmore blur unnaturally, as if struck twice. These aren't scratches. They aren't damage from wear. They're minting errors, and that's what makes them priceless. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors often say, the mint's mistake is the collector's miracle. And this quarter proves it. Imagine being the one who notices, the one who spots the doubling that others overlook. You send it off to be graded. Weeks pass. And then the call comes: it's genuine. It's rare. It's worth more than a house, more than most people's life savings. All from a coin you almost spent. Every time one surfaces, the bidding war is electric. Dealers lock eyes across the room. Auctioneers push their voices to the edge. And the crowd gasps as the price crosses 100,000, then 200, then 500,000. Until finally, the hammer falls at a figure no one thought possible. Over $1 million, and that's the magic of this story. Because while only a handful exist, they're still out there. In pockets. In coin jars. In desk drawers. Hidden in the most ordinary of places, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck. One collector told the story of how his grandmother's change jar sat untouched for a decade. He sifted through it one lazy Sunday, never expecting much. But when he pulled out a South Dakota quarter, something felt strange. He looked closer, saw the doubling, sent it in for grading, and months later, that coin changed his family's future forever. And here's the part that should give you chills. Statistically, there are still undiscovered examples floating through circulation. That means the very next quarter you hold could be the one. Every time you hear that clink of change, every time you get a coin back at a store, the possibility is there. First, check the date. It must be 2006. Second, look for the D-mint mark under Washington's bust. And third, examine carefully. Doubling, misalignments, strange blurs on the design. Don't dismiss them. Don't assume they're damage. They could be your key to a fortune, because this isn't just a coin. It's a hidden ticket to a new life. It's the kind of find that turns ordinary collectors into legends. It's why dealers lose sleep at night, wondering if the next South Dakota quarter that walks through their doors might be the $1 million prize. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. They'll be shocked again when the next one surfaces. And maybe the state quarter seems ordinary. It's part of the 50 State Quarters program, a series millions of Americans collected between 1999 and 2008. Arizona's design features the Grand Canyon, with a proud saguaro cactus in the foreground, celebrating the state's breathtaking landscapes. But in 2008, something went terribly wrong at the Philadelphia Mint. A minting error occurred, so subtle, so easy to miss, that thousands of people handled this coin without realizing they were holding a life-changing fortune. Collectors call it the extra cactus leaf error. Instead of a clean, open design, some Arizona quarters show what looks like an extra leaf carved into the cactus, a strange, misplaced line that covers part of the word Grand Canyon State. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a scratch. But to coin experts, it was proof of a die break, a flaw in the minting process that created one of the rarest state quarter varieties in existence. But here's where the story turns shocking. When the first of these error coins surfaced, dealers dismissed them as curiosities, worth maybe a few dollars. But as the truth spread, and collectors realized how few of these error quarters actually existed in high-grade condition, the price began to climb. First a few $100s, then thousands. And then, one unbelievable night at auction, an Arizona quarter with the error graded in near perfect mint state sold for more than $1 million. The crowd gasped. Collectors were stunned. And in that moment, the Arizona quarter leapt from pocket change into legend, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Ordinary Americans, from teachers to truck drivers, started checking their change, hoping to strike gold with a quarter. Coin dealers were flooded with Arizona quarters, most of them worthless, but every once in a while, someone brought in a coin that made the experts sit up and stare. This tiny detail, they whispered, is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine it. One man in Phoenix bought a soda, received 2 Arizona quarters as change, and nearly spent them at a vending machine. Something caught his eye, a strange shadow across the cactus. He saved the coin, sent it in for grading, and months later, he walked away with a payout that would change his life forever. His pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and this is where the story gets even deeper. Not every error coin is created equal. The extra cactus leaf appears in slightly different forms, depending on the die that produced it. Some are faint, barely visible, worth maybe a few $100s. But the bold, dramatic versions, where the leaf seems to pierce the inscription, are the ones collectors are chasing with everything they've got. Those are the coins that bring staggering sums, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and in a few rare cases, over $1 million. Condition is everything. Most quarters are beat up, scratched, and worn down by years of use. But the Arizona error quarter that crossed the $1 million mark was in almost perfect condition, preserved as though it had just left the mint. That's why collectors now scour bankrolls, sealed bags, and old collections, praying to find one that's been hiding untouched for years. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because they know once the few surviving high-grade examples are locked away in private collections, the chance to own one will vanish forever. But let's reset here. Think about it. A 2008 quarter, something minted less than 2 decades ago, commanding more money than a luxury home. How can a coin so young be worth so much? The answer lies in a perfect storm, an official U.S. coin with a dramatic error, released into circulation during a program millions of people were already collecting, yet so subtle that most people never noticed. It's rarity, demand, and a touch of mystery all rolled into one. And when those forces collide, the price can reach the stratosphere. Collectors whisper stories of hidden stashes. Rumors of sealed boxes of 2008 P mint quarters, sitting in safes, untouched for years. Some believe there are still undiscovered error coins waiting to be found. And the dream of discovery keeps the hunt alive. Every Arizona quarter that passes through someone's hands is a chance, slim, yes, but real, to uncover a fortune. When I hold an Arizona extra leaf quarter, it feels like I'm holding lightning in my hand. That's the level of excitement this coin creates. Dealers have seen grown men tremble, women cry, and seasoned collectors lose their breath when they realize they've found the real thing. But here's the part that should have you racing to check your change. This isn't just a collector's fantasy. These coins are out there. Right now. In coin jars, dresser drawers, forgotten piggy banks. Most people don't know what they're looking at, and they spend them as if they were nothing more than 25 cents. And yet, the right one, in the right condition, could be worth over $1 million. Look closely at the reverse side of the 2008 Arizona quarter, minted in Philadelphia, marked with a small P just below the motto, "In God We Trust." Focus on the cactus leaves. If you see what looks like an extra leaf cutting across the words Grand Canyon State, you may have something extraordinary. The more dramatic and obvious the error, the higher the potential value. And if the coin is bright, sharp, and uncirculated, you could be staring at a life-changing discovery. But beware of common mistakes. Many people confuse scratches or damage for the extra leaf. True error coins have a raised, intentional-looking design element, not a gouge or scrape. And only the coins from the Philadelphia Mint carry this legendary variety. Denver minted coins, marked with a D, do not think about it. Right now, you could walk into a gas station, pay for your coffee, and receive change that includes a coin worth more than $1 million. A tiny piece of metal, overlooked by millions, holding the power to rewrite someone's financial future, and that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about history or metal, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the chance that one ordinary day, you'll discover something extraordinary. The Arizona quarter is living proof of that. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old jar of change, take a moment to look closer. Study the cactus. Look for that hidden leaf. Because somewhere out there, waiting to be found, is a quarter that could turn your life upside down. This coin almost slipped through unnoticed, tossed from one hand to another, rattling inside change jars, forgotten in glove compartments. But one shocking discovery turned it from a simple pocket quarter into a treasure worth up to $1.4 million. Yes, a 2015 D-Mint Mark Blue Ridge Parkway quarter. A coin so ordinary looking, yet hiding a secret so powerful, it stunned collectors across the nation. North Carolina, 2015. The U.S. Mint releases the Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were struck, millions entered circulation. People used them at gas stations, vending machines, laundromats, never suspecting the truth. But in that flood of coins, just a handful carried a flaw, a mystery, a detail so rare it would change lives forever. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers guard their knowledge. And yet, somewhere out there, sitting in change jars and dresser drawers, these coins are still hiding. It begins with the Denver Mint. 2015, presses roaring, metal blanks slamming under thousands of pounds of pressure. Most coins come out perfectly, crisp, flawless. But a tiny fraction? They emerge with imperfections, double strikes, misalignments, die cracks. Flaws so rare they become treasures. And in the case of the Blue Ridge quarter, some errors went completely unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors spotted them years later. One man's story shocked the entire coin world. He had been saving quarters casually, tossing them into a jar on his kitchen counter. When he finally sat down to roll them for the bank, something caught his eye. The details of the Blue Ridge Parkway coin looked off. The lettering was stretched, the design appeared doubled. Most people would have missed it, but he didn't. And when he brought it to a dealer, jaws dropped. That ordinary coin sold at auction for a staggering price, setting the stage for others to realize these quarters weren't just change, they were gold mines hiding in plain sight. But this is where the story gets even stranger, because not all of these valuable 2015 D quarters are error coins. Some are pristine examples, graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, scoring a perfect MS70. Out of millions minted, only a tiny handful survive in such flawless condition. And those few are commanding prices climbing into the hundreds of thousands, even pushing into million-dollar territory when paired with rare striking errors. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, the 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter wasn't just another coin, it became one of the most talked about modern rarities in America. But here's the twist most people never hear: it's not just about perfection. Some of the most valuable quarters aren't pristine at all, they're flawed. A tiny die chip that looks like a bump on the coin, a strike so slightly off-center you'd think it was nothing, a doubling of the words Blue Ridge Parkway or E pluribus unum. To the untrained eye, it looks like damage. To a collector? It looks like a fortune. And then there are the wrong planchet errors, coins struck on metal blanks meant for dimes or nickels instead of quarters. Imagine holding a Blue Ridge quarter that weighs less, feels strange, and turns out to be one of only a handful ever discovered. That's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime mistake that pushes a coin from being worth a few cents to being worth $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Ordinary people started pulling out their change jars, magnifying glasses in hand, searching for their own miracle. And time and again, the stories rolled in. A janitor in Texas found one. A grandmother in Ohio discovered another. A teenager using a vending machine in Colorado spotted a strange-looking coin, only to learn later that it was worth more than his parents' car. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the frenzy only grew. Auctions began seeing these coins appear, sometimes fetching 6 figures, sometimes 7. The numbers kept climbing, and so did the excitement. Collectors weren't just bidding on a coin, they were bidding on a piece of modern history. If you flip over a 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter and look closely, you might spot doubling on the reverse, especially around the curved mountain road and the inscriptions. Sometimes the doubling is faint, sometimes it's bold, but either way, it transforms the coin into a treasure. Other times, a die break leaves what collectors call a cud, an odd blob of metal that shouldn't be there. These quirks, these flaws, are what separate a regular coin from $1 million masterpiece, and yet, perhaps the most shocking truth of all is this: most of these coins are still undiscovered. Out of the millions struck, only a fraction have been carefully inspected. Most remain in circulation, sitting in cash registers, tumbling inside soda machines, slipping into the hands of people who never realize what they hold. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Dealers are scanning every collection they buy, hoping to stumble upon one. The thrill, the adrenaline, the possibility, it's electrifying. Because in the world of coin collecting, nothing compares to the moment you realize that ordinary piece of change you almost spent at the gas station is worth up to $1.4 million. Here's what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D4 Denver, struck in 2015. Then study the details with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the lettering or the design, especially on the reverse. Check for die cracks, strange bumps of metal, or off-center strikes. Weigh the coin. If it's lighter or heavier than 5.67 grams, it could have been struck on the wrong planchet. And if your coin looks absolutely flawless, without a single scratch, consider sending it to a grading service. It could be one of those elusive MS-70s worth a fortune. Don't make the mistake of dismissing a coin just because it looks strange. Sometimes what looks like damage is actually the very thing that makes it valuable. And don't assume only old coins carry value. This modern 2015 quarter proves that treasures are still being made, treasures that can change.